In this series of webinars, I'm going to be asking the questions you've always wanted to ask to the people you've always wanted to ask them to. Today, I'm talking to someone who's done a lot. A master director, multiple medal-winning singer and director, a multiple international committee member, and Gooch recipient, the list goes on. But today, we're not talking to her about any of that. We're talking to her about her journey to becoming a certified sound judge. Valerie Taylor, welcome.
Hello, Nikki. How nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk to you about your journey to becoming a sound judge today, Val. And it was really interesting preparing for this interview and finding out more about you. And I hope today we can find more about your journey. And I know that your barbershop journey, although you'd sung before, your barbershop journey began in 1996 when you had been singing for 5 years with the Royal Choral Society, which I didn't know. And then you went along to a Surrey Harmony rehearsal. Barbershop completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I was singing, well, I've been singing all my life, I guess. My mum was a passionate singer, and you know how your parents make you all learn instruments and do stuff, but I really enjoyed singing. And I happened to see in the paper that Surrey Harmony had performed at the local theatre, and there was this picture. I thought, that looks fun, I'll go along and visit them. So you know, on your first night you get put into a part, and they said sing tenor, because I used to sing soprano, so I sang tenor on my first night.
Did you like it?
What, tenor?
Yeah, tenor. I mean, you clearly like barbershop because you've been with it ever since, but did you like tenor?
That's a good question. It was so different, I suppose, to what I'd expected, and I think the sort of clash of culture, because I come from this sort of choral background. I sang tenor that night and never again.
And did somebody suggest that you sung another part, or did you say, I don't want to sing that, or what happened?
I had a proper voice placement after my first visit, and the person who did it made me sing some scales and the normal sorts of things that you have in a voice placement. And she said, you should be a baritone. And I said, I don't think so. Which perhaps not quite like that, but I did say, oh no, I don't think I could do that. And she said, well, all right, then be a lead. So I was a lead, and I sang the melody. And so yeah, I got.
You were a lead for a long time, weren't you? I mean, you had a good go at lead before you decided it wasn't the part for you. You had a good go, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, I like the lead personality, and obviously it's, as everyone would say, it's quite easy to learn the lead part, but it's difficult to portray it and put it across. And I guess over the time I realized that I didn't quite have that projection in my voice. I try to mimic other singers when I play around with my voice, so I think having that kind of ability is better for baritones. And of course there's always the old, you know, you can read music and stuff like that.
And let's not be partist here.
Yes.
But you are quite a perfectionist, aren't you? So, you know, baritones, the personality of a baritone is often somebody who is that. And yeah, I mean, that is you, isn't it?
I think it has been said that baritones...
I mean, you are this much of a perfectionist that you have, I mean, I've Zoomed with you on various committees and whatever a lot over lockdown, and I have seen the view I'm seeing now, but never with the nonchalantly placed awards behind you on the shelf. I mean, that they just happened to fall there, did they?
Well, no, they do actually live there most of the time.
Yeah,
I've moved something else.
They're perfectly placed. It has to be said. You are a perfectionist.
I checked the background.
I also think, and I don't know whether anybody else is as fascinated with this as me, but I think you are someone who never has a bad hair day. I have never ever seen you, Valerie Taylor, have a bad hair day. It's almost like you take a hairdresser around with you, because your hair always looks the same. it looks like you've just had it cut all of the time. Do you have a private hairdresser that comes with you? Because I've never seen you had a shocking hair day, ever.
Well, tomorrow I'm on a barbershop in Harmony call at 10 a.m. So maybe you should dial into that and have a look.
Okay. I would like you to take a photograph because I don't believe it's ever happened. Or unless David, your husband, who we see with you everywhere, is secretly a hairdresser.
I can tell you quite
categorically,
he is not. And that's usually why you don't see this, because I've got it blurred because David is wandering past in the background with a T-shirt with some inappropriate slogan on it.
On purpose. Okay, so you become a lead and you join Surrey Harmony. And I believe it was on a coaching weekend with Jim Arns, the wonderful Jim Arns, when you first thought about the possibility of becoming a judge. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I can remember it so clearly, like yesterday, partly also because I think when you close your eyes and you can see the carpet in a hotel.
Yeah. Well.
So we had, maybe just me, but the carpet in the hotel where Surrey Harmony used to have their coaching sessions was one of those really squirrely brown and red types. Anyway, Jim Arns was there as well. And he was just telling us about Renee Porzel. You might have heard of her.
I love
quite famous. She had just started in the judging program as a showmanship judge, visual communication as they are now. And so he's telling us about her, and he also does this great thing where he explains the categories and everything else. And he said, has anyone here thought about judging? And I went like this. There you are.
And how long had you been singing barbershop when you did the hand thing?
That's a good question. It was probably 5 years, 6 years, I don't know, something like that. So not a huge amount of time, I suppose.
And so that suddenly something in you clicked and you thought, I'd actually like to do that. I mean, what is it in you that says that's something I'd like to do? Is it the challenge of doing that? Or is it had you sat in awe at a competition and seen the judges and thought, wow, that must be fantastic? Or what was it?
Well, to be honest, there's part of me that doesn't quite know why I put my hand up. I sort of found it happening. I was like, oh, look, that must be me.
Whose hand is that? Oh, it's mine.
And I guess I hadn't paid a lot of attention to the judges because I think for most of us, they're these sort of 4 shadowy heads or 8 at international, and you don't really get to know much about them. But it was the idea of learning more about what we did. I mean, I like a challenge. I like to learn stuff. And this seemed to be a good way of doing that. And boy, did I learn stuff.
And so you decided to do it. And in 2004, you applied to the sound category. And I'm not sure, I don't think people are aware of this because I think in our heads, you as the perfectionist, everything that you want kind of comes to you. You look like it, you make it look so easy to us. But the first time you applied, you were rejected.
Yeah, I applied in 2004. And I guess I didn't really know so much about it. I mean, I tried to investigate and had been to IES and looked into it, but I didn't really know, I guess, how the process would work. And I got a letter back that said, I'm sorry, you were not successful.
So how does it work? Do you just apply, or you say you want to apply and then they say, put in your application, or, what happens?
In theory, anyone can apply, but you do have to give some referees. So it's quite good to know people who might be good referees. But yeah, you can put in an application and you have to explain, what you've done in the organisation and what your musical background is and all that kind of stuff. And they take a look at that. They take up the references. So I had to put in give 5 referee names. And they also will contact people in the region as well to find out, I suppose, the truth about you. I don't know. Yeah. So I put my application in, and then it might have even been an actual letter in those days that came through, and it said, I'm sorry you weren't successful, but you can reapply again in 2 years. And they said, we recommend you get some more international experience. So I thought,
so they give you a reason. They don't just say no. They say,
they
give you a kind of clue.
Yeah. And they gave me a pointer, although when you're sitting here in the UK and you think, how do I get international experience? You can't just say, please sign me up to be, president or something. But so I thought, well, I need
There's
to
the
ask.
thing. You heard it here first. Valerie Taylor has designs on presidency.
Well, that's overstating it a little bit. I don't know what makes you say that. So I thought, well, I need to understand a bit more about what this means. And I wrote back, and it was Betty Clipman, who was the head of the judges at that time. So I emailed her and said, what do you mean about this international experience? And so she said, well, maybe join the RMT, perhaps if you could get to be part of the regional faculty. So I did those things.
You know, it's funny because you'd think, well, why would that be important? And, you know, why should I have to do that? It's not going to change my ability to be able to be a judge, and I could still be trained. But actually, it's nice for us to know, I think, that is important to the process, because we want the judges to be human, and we want to know that they know the association and the people in it and all of that. So it's kind of nice to hear that that's important, you know, learning how the region runs, you know, all of that sort of thing.
And I think at that point, I might have been the quartet liaison, because also another huge benefit of being part of Surrey Harmony is that I met Sheila Doherty, who you may remember, who sadly passed away a few years ago, and she was the RMT coordinator for a time, and she said to me, you know, well, you should be on the chorus management team, and you know, things like that. So she sort of helped push me in these directions, and I think it's, you know, people like her who I also credit for my success, because there are people who see things in you and sort of say, you can do this, have this little job. And then that little job, you know, the first thing I did was quartet liaison, and now I've been on like however many international committees. So so she gave me some opportunities like that as well, which again I'm eternally grateful for. And it means that you understand, I suppose, simply how contest fits into everything, but the workings of the organization, you know, how the international board and the staff relate to what goes on in the regions, how a region works, even because if you're in a chorus and you're not even on your chorus, you're just a member and you're not even on the chorus management team, maybe it can be difficult to understand what goes on behind the scenes, and then you move up to a regional level and you see all of that and the work that goes on and the care and attention and the, you know, the hard work and the commitment that everybody gives. So I think it was a really good piece of advice to broaden my experience within the region, and it also gave me I guess more tools that I could use then as well as a judge.
But it has to be said, I mean, to do that, to apply to do it is a massive thing anyway, but to be rejected is, you know, for most people would have been enough for, you know, to say, I'm not meant to do this. It's not for me. They're never going to say yes. I don't know why. I thought I could do it anyway. Most people would have had that thought in their head, but you didn't, and it spurred you on. And not only did you reapply, but you waited to reapply. So they said 2 years. You waited longer than that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I waited 3 years, and I suppose talking about your first point, it might show that you actually have the real desire to do it, you know. So if you get knocked back at the first, and then you say, oh, actually, no, I can't be bothered to, you know, maybe it's not for me after all, then maybe it wasn't for you, because it's a hard thing to do. And, you know, there's a lot of work and a lot of grind that goes on, and further disappointments that happen during the process. So if you get, you know, if you're blown away by the initial rejection, I suppose it means maybe that wasn't the right thing for you and something else would be better. But for me, I think also, if somebody says to me, oh, I don't think you could do that, then I'm like, oh yes, I think I can. Obviously, not if they say, oh, I think you could run the marathon, I'd be like, no, you're absolutely right.
Yes, there is that actually. That's me too. Yeah.
But if somebody says, oh, I don't think you could be in the judging program, or, you know, well, you could be, but you should do these things, I'd be like, right, I'll do those things then. So I guess it's partly that, and that I did think it was something I really wanted to do. You know, I thought I could learn a lot from it, which I certainly did. So I applied to be on the RMT, but I was also at that point, the region was launching the regional faculty for the first time. And so with Alison Cheney's support, I was applying for that. So I went back to Betty Clipman and I said, I should be about to join the regional faculty, but that won't happen for another bit. So maybe it would be better if I waited another year. And she said, yes, I think that's a good idea. So I did that. And I guess one of the things that I've heard in some feedback that I've got is they like the fact that I asked for direction and then I took it, like I took the advice. So, that's, I suppose, something else to learn from it.
And you were successful when you reapplied. Was that, were you expecting it? You'd asked them, as you said, what do you want me to do? They said this, you did it. And so were you fairly confident when you reapplied that you'd be successful, or 50-50, or did you think I'll do this and if it doesn't work, then that's it? Where were you in your head?
I think it's interesting. Again, I don't know whether I don't remember that, so I must have thought I would be successful the second time, because it's not, I don't have a particular memory of it. And I've also I got more understanding, and I'd probably got some better referees as well. So and people get to know you a little bit, and I think that's also helpful. But I think I was more confident that I would be successful. And then you think, well, if I'm not successful now, then clearly I'm not cut out for it.
And was that a letter? Did they email you? Did they call you? What happens?
Yeah, it was a letter. I'm trying to think now how advanced technology was in those days. All those years ago in 2007, they might have emailed the letter and posted it as well. But yeah, you get a letter. So the process is quite detached. And I think international can sometimes feel that way from the normal member perspective, that you do something and it goes off and then loads of work's going on, but you don't know about that. And then you get a response. And so the response came back saying, yes, you are successful, and you then become an applicant judge, which is the sort of first year is a kind of tester as well. So you're not properly in the program at that point.
And it's like one long learning thing, one long being tested process. But in 2008, you go to Sweden for your first trial scoring assignment. That's huge, isn't it? That's a big thing. Were you scared?
Oh, petrified. I think again now I chose Sweden, obviously, because it's around the corner compared to most other regions. And I chose region 17, which is on the east coast of the US. And also, I think both of those were after our regional convention, so I could kind of get that done and then sort of switch into judging mode. But yeah, you go over to a different country, and there you are in a hotel, but with a completely different job to do than anything else you've ever done at convention, with Betty Clipman as the sound judge, and the panel chair, yes, it's a terrifying experience.
And I guess if they're testing you, and your trial scoring, it's not like anyone can help you. You've got to have done your homework beforehand, and then go and do your thing, and then wait for them to tell you whether you've done it well or not. Yeah,
there is a lot of help and support from the other judges. And I think one of the things that's so great about the judging community is everyone's very supportive and encouraging of each other, including the trainees, so they were really welcoming. But it is being a little bit dropped in at the deep end at the start, because you haven't had any official training at that point. So you put your application in, they say, yep, come along, you do a couple of test papers at home, and then they say, right, go out and judge a contest, not for real, but and then you do that with only the stuff I'd picked up as much as best I could along the way. But in the process, you're always obviously shadowing somebody else, and they will sit down with you and talk through the contest afterwards. So they give their time to help train the young judges and the new judges. So I sat down with Betty Clipman, and she talked through things, and she would show me her score sheets so I could read what she'd written, took photocopies of them so I could take them away and study them afterwards. So that happens kind of during the course of the contest weekend. But yeah, everything else, your score sheets, you hand them in, somebody collects them up in an envelope, and they go off to international, and then one of the other judges will read all your score sheets, look at all your scores, compare it to the official panel, and then they give you a feedback report.
Gosh, I mean, yeah, it's intense. And there follows, judging trips around the world. And I'm guessing it gets a little less scary each time you do it.
Yeah, in some ways, because at least you know what a contest is from the other side of the fence. But I mean, I always found the day before the contest started, when you get into it, it's not so bad. But Thursday night before the Friday of quartet contest was always awful for me. And I hardly slept a wink in Sweden. And I hardly slept a wink on any Thursday night, in a contest, until the point when they said, you are now, you've qualified, basically. And then for some reason, I was able to sleep right through.
And then you go to Pasadena, Region 21, while you're merrily getting through this process of training. And that, let's remind ourselves, is the home of Harbour Lights, San Diego, Scottsdale. That's a high scoring region, and they have some thing on a Thursday night. Tell us about that and what that did to your experience of judging.
Yeah, that region was real highs and lows for me. As you say, it's a stonking region, with all these multiple kind of international gold medal winning choruses. And on the Thursday night, they had a regional quartet celebration, and they had a stage in a ballroom in a hotel, and the quartets came up and sang. And so we were all sitting, the judges just sat to watch, and participate as guests. And all these quartets got up on the stage, and I thought, well, they sound like B+. And the next one came on, I thought, well, they sound like B+. And so in my mind, I was like, everyone was the same, they were all like fabulous. And the next day when I went to the quartet contest, I just felt all at sea, I suppose. And I distinctly remember saying to myself, well, actually said to myself and one of the other judges, I might as well have picked the numbers out of a hat, because I sat there and trial scored the contest, but my scores were all over the place. And I think I'd been intimidated by seeing the kind of quality of people in that region. The chorus contest was fine, but it took me longer to get to grips with the quartet contest, really. And I think that seeing those performers on the Thursday night probably didn't put me in quite the right headspace.
So is that something you've avoided doing since, or are you okay with it now?
I would not choose to attend that kind of event if they had one, but I think I actually can't say that I've come across one since then. So perhaps they did it especially for part of my training.
Yeah, see what happens when we do this to you the night before. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, that sort of thing is weird, isn't it? I know that, when I was competing in quartet, if I would hear somebody else singing in the weeks leading up to the contest, I thought everybody I heard was better than me. Even like 10-year-olds singing in quartet, I think, oh, they're really good, and that's, your mind plays really, terrible tricks on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the when we do the stage walk, for regional convention, and you sit and you watch everyone else going in like, wow, they're good. Wow, they're good.
Yeah, I know, it's a terrible thing. It really is a terrible thing. And as well as trial scoring at regional contests, you trial scored at international 3 times. Now, that's by invitation, right? You have to be invited to do that. You can't just say, oh, I think I'll go to international and trial score. They invite you to do that when they think that you're ready for the big game.
Yes, that's right. Yep, I did it a couple of times in Denver and Houston, I think, while I was still a kind of proper trainee. And then once I was qualified, I got a chance to do it again. But it's the most fascinating, awesome experience, but totally exhausting.
And I didn't realise I don't know why I didn't realise, but until you were doing it, I didn't realise that if you trial score at international, you do everything. So if you're actually on the panel, you do either quartets or choruses.
Yes, that's
if
right.
you're trial scoring, you do quartets and choruses, semi-finals and finals. I mean,
Yes.
that's exhausting.
And now you do harmony classic as well, because of course in the old days harmony classic wasn't at international, it was at IES, but they've added that on the Tuesday night. So yeah, if you're given the opportunity to trial score at international, then again I suppose it's another baptism of fire, that you get a wonderful opportunity, and it is, you know, just unparalleled, I would say, but it's such hard work. And even before harmony classic, you know, you do the quartets and the contests start about 9:45, but we still do a level preparation before that. So you might meet at 7:30 to watch videos, then you judge a competition that ends at 10 o'clock at night, and then you go back the next day and you do the choruses, same deal, and then Friday, Saturday. So yeah, it is exhausting.
And we think it's exhausting being a competitor. Wow. Gosh, so okay, you do all that and you keep putting yourself through it, and obviously things get better and your scores get more in line and everything is good, and you never go on a Thursday night to watch anybody ever again. And in 2012, the judging assignments, this fascinates me too, the judging assignments are announced via email. So you've heard nothing, and then you get an email which gives a list of the judging assignments, and your name is on the list as a sound category judge. You've done it.
Yes.
And I mean, that's like, wow. But there's no party, there's no like phone call, there's no announcement. It's just you find yourself on the list.
Yeah, and the list comes out in the summer. You get asked to, when you're a qualified judge, you get asked to put your dates in that you can do, and then obviously they've got a huge jigsaw puzzle to arrange to, you know, put the judges at the right weekends, and then they send that out to everyone. And as a trial scorer, I was waiting for it to come out so I could see where I might want to go the next year. And I looked down the list of sound judges because I like to try to get with people who I thought would teach me something that I didn't know already. And I was going down the list, and there I was. And it must have been a week or two before an IES or an AHA or some kind of international education. And I went along, and Marcia Pinvidic was the head of the judges at that point, and she said, "Oh yeah, I didn't think I would let you know. I thought I'd let you find out by opening the email." So I had a little party by myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you are then the first certified judge outside North America, and I mean that is incredible. Not just because it's an amazing feat to have gone back after being rejected, to have done all that work, to have gone through all those trial scoring moments, but just because you're here and they're there. And actually, it doesn't matter what anybody says, that's big. You know, that is big. It does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I've talked to obviously lots of new judges, approved candidate judge, or ACJ is what they call it. So ACJs is the term that's bandied around, and you talk to them and most of them get to go to another regional contest before they try their hand at judging, and I'd only been to international which of course is still an opportunity more than a lot of people ever have. So yeah, I'd never been to another regional contest until I went to Sweden, and so I guess in that sense I'm kind of self-taught, although that's also a bit of a lie because I tried to learn from everybody else who I encountered. But yeah, it's harder work. And when I was talking to Anna Rosenberg, who's the second judge from outside North America, she said that when she saw that I'd applied and was moving through the program, she thought, well, I can do it. And so, you know, I hope it gives encouragement to other people who might think that they would love to do this. So it is achievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's huge. I don't think people realize what that big stretch of water adds to things. You know, it's huge from I can only talk from a competitor's point of view, but it is massive. It does make a difference being here when everybody else is there, because whatever you do, you've got to travel to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, I think, maybe the people who live in the States can take that for granted to some extent, because they can mostly drive somewhere to get to another region. Obviously, I think also what I've realized is America is a very big place.
Yes,
and so we don't have a monopoly on the fact that we have to fly places, because people who live in Seattle, get assigned to a contest in Florida, and they've also got a big flight, a big traveling obligation and time differences. But they could probably drive to a neighboring region and get to experience that, where we simply can't. I mean, we can go to Sweden, which is fortunate, but it's a bigger effort, I think, for us.
Yeah. Huge. It's huge. It's a big thing, people. And then the training doesn't actually stop once you're qualified, does it? You still continue to study and train, and and how have you done that through lockdown?
That's another interesting question. I mean, the training, every judge's score sheets, every single thing that you write gets reviewed by somebody else. So every year the judge specialists, so the heads of each category, get together and they review all the score sheets of every judge and every competition. So it's a huge amount of work for them. But then you get a kind of report card that comes back that says maybe and they will circle things on your sheets, and say, you've used the word good 6 times on this sheet, perhaps tried to get some more varied language, or so we'll comment about language, but also you get assessed on your scoring and everything else. So it's a constant assessment and improvement program. And then we do have judge training as well. So it's like a 3-day weekend every 3 years it is now. So we just had that on Zoom this summer. But it's been a challenge, like everything else, in the pandemic, to try and keep on top of things. And everyone was gutted. I can't put it into words, but we were all gutted, and I'm not claiming that as my own, only I felt that way, but I did feel quite extra gutted this year, because I was just about to be panel chair for the first time. And I'd been given that assignment to go to Region 14 and be the panel chair, so I was all geared up for that. Well, that was like extra stress, so there's more stress and work that goes along with that, but I was prepared for that. And then it was literally like a week when lockdown happened here. I was meant to go to the States the following week to be the panel chair, so that all fell through. I thought also I wanted to practice what I'd prepared for being a panel chair, so I just called upon 7 other judges, and I said, look, if I put together a Zoom session and run it as a little boot camp, they call it, but as a training session where I can practice my panel chair skills and we can all have discussions about some performances, would you come along? And they were all like, yes, absolutely. So I've run 3 of those over the last year, I guess. In about that time we made it work, and spend a couple of hours watching performances and talking about it, because that's talking about what do you see in that performance, what do you hear. That's one of the really educational parts for me, and it helped me to keep my judging brain going, I guess, during lockdown.
It's really lovely for us as performers to know that, well, firstly, you miss judging as much as we miss singing. That's a great thing, but also that you care so much about getting it right, that that you want to get together and you want to discuss things and you want to talk about performances, so that you get it right. That's really reassuring to us as performers to know that happens.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I'm not alone in this. Every judge that I've met stresses about, just before you go into the contest, they want to do the absolute best for the competitors. And I think, again, it can seem like we just swan into a region, sit there and write stuff that you might not be happy with and swan out again. But actually, all the judges are so passionate about the people who are on the stage, about what they're doing, and giving good and helpful feedback and wanting everybody to do well. So, I need to make sure that I'm on top of my game so that I can do that for the people that I'm coming across. But convention is such a fantastic weekend. So, you get a real buzz from going as a performer, and going as a judge is equally a wonderful experience.
And I know that, you know, you've had some amazing people that have influenced on your journey, and now you are able to pass your knowledge and support. And I know that you are doing that with people who are now thinking about applying, and that's something that you feel really passionate about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for sharing what I know with others. So if there's anybody who's interested in judging, then I'm more than happy to talk endlessly about about the process. But, you know, seriously, to kind of give guidance and pointers about what might be helpful for that person to do, you know, in their preparation for applying, and be a referee for anybody else. And
I think what's really come out for me today is that, you know, it is possible to do this. And I think it's really nice to hear the story behind it, but also to hear that it wasn't easy for you. You know, you did it, and you did it amazingly, but it wasn't always easy for you. But it is a possible thing. You know, it makes it more accessible. It makes it seem more accessible to people. So
yes, and that's I think one angle, isn't it, that if you realize that actually somebody had to work at stuff and it just doesn't fall into your lap because you fit some kind of profile, then you can say, well, I can also work at those things. I guess the flip side of that as well is that because it was a challenge, and it probably falls into the category of, I'd say, almost the most challenging thing I can think I've done in my life, and I'm a lawyer, so but, you know, one of the most challenging things I've done, certainly in the most challenging thing in music, and that's what makes it so rewarding. Because if you just go, oh, I'll be a judge, ting, and there you are, then, you know, where's the fun in that?
Yeah, it's a journey, isn't it? You know, it's the same thing as winning gold medals. It's the journey. It is the journey. You know, it's wonderful. Val, becoming a certified sound judge from so far away from the action, before anyone else has done it from over here, is huge. It's actually massive. And I'm not sure if any of us really understood what an achievement it is, or how much energy and time and lack of sleep it took you, because actually you made it look like it was easy. And, you know, I think it's great. I think you're great. And I really enjoyed chatting to you today. Valerie Taylor, thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
I really hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Join me again where I'll be zooming in on another character in Region 31.